Matt Rhule is the head coach at Nebraska. And if you're just joining college football again, yep, that probably is breaking news to you. Matt Rhule is a college guy. I've always viewed him as a college guy. And I always want to celebrate on this show when one of our guys comes back to our sport. We don't want to celebrate a guy getting fired, but if it has to happen, which it happened with him at Carolina, come back home. Just please come home, Matt. Well, he came home. And to Nebraska, no less. So, I sat down with him at Big Ten Media Days last week, and I'm going to talk a lot more about this in just a second, but I did have some sound because I think a lot of you may have missed it because I didn't have time to put it in the show Thursday night. What I always wanted to know from him, and finally got to ask him, is why didn't you sit out a year? I always want to know that when coaches jump right back in. And number two, I want to know what kind of people he plans on having around him up there. Luckily, we were able to ask him both questions. Some guys, when they're leaving a job, they want to take a year off and recharge, and other guys say, no, I got plenty of energy. I don't need that at all. Where were you, just in terms of your overall battery?
Yeah, I think I went into the season knowing that if things didn't work out, I'd probably take a year off and just kind of catch my breath, get myself mentally right and go back to work, get my family right. My son was going, he's going into his senior year. We wanted him to finish in Charlotte. But I got fired early, and so I had plenty of time, and so, I'm watching college football. I'm talking to, my buddies in coaching. I had time off. I had a bunch of Saturdays where I could watch the game, and so I wasn't in a rush. I just wanted, I was afforded the time to find the right place, and so I need to coach. I love to coach. If I didn't take a job, I probably was going to coach high school in Charlotte. Like, I love it, and my family loves it, and so we jumped at it.
What kind of characteristics do I have to have if I want to coach for you?
I think you have to have the same philosophy that I have, and that's that, I want to make sure that every player that plays for us 10, 20, 30 years down the line says my life's better because I played for them. I don't need coaches who only coach like the really talented players. We coach everybody. And if the bottom third of our roster is really engaged and feels great, then we'll have a really good team. If you have that, then you better just be really, really mentally tough because good enough's never good enough, right? Like, we're going to be critical of everything that we do. And if you're defensive or anything, you're not going to make it real long. So if you love people and want to help them have good lives, if you're really, really tough and you can work hard, then all I ask is that you be a great teacher. If you can do those things, you can be a great football coach. That translates into recruiting. That translates into relationships. It translates into play calling and game day.
He didn't belong in the NFL. He belongs with us. It's a we situation. We love a good we. And it's Matt Rhule back in college football with us. I have some friends who shan't be named, who are Carolina Panther fans, who wanted to speak ill of him. Go ahead. He's not with you anymore. He's with us now. That's a program builder. I asked your opinion of him today, by the way. That's why we're talking about this. And I said, what's your opinion of Matt Rhule? We like to use this time of year to gauge the college football public's opinion. And pretty much everyone said, oh, he's a program builder. And some of you followed it up with not crazy about the offensive coordinator he hired, Marcus Satterfield, for the record. I may share that sentiment with you. But you know what? They can go 6-6 this year and improve on last year. So let's just put the individual 2023 expectations on the shelf for a second. The opinion of Matt Rhule is almost no one has a negative college football opinion of him. And the ones who did have somewhat of a negative opinion, they allowed NFL to creep in. Oh, he was a failure in the NFL. There are about 100 different variables in play that determine success or failure in the NFL that don't exist or you have more control of in college football. So I don't care. Either way, I don't care. It is Nebraska. It is Lincoln, Nebraska. It's the Big 12. It's not the NFC South anymore. Did you watch him at Temple? You know he spent 10 years of his coaching career there, by the way, in some capacity. Did you watch him at Baylor? I did not say Bama and USC, by the way. He had the 10-win season at Temple for the first time since the late 70s. You saw the massive turnaround they had at Baylor. And by the way, let's not forget the situation at Baylor he inherited. Program builder. Year 2, pretty much everywhere he's been. Now, there are some of us, I'm including myself, that think maybe it doesn't have to be a disastrous year 1 for him there because of the moves they were able to make in the portal that didn't used to exist as an option. And I've talked to him about that the other day too. If you want that full interview, it's on our YouTube channel. It's not too old. It's not too deep in the archives either. There is not much guesswork with him is my point. It's not like he's never coached college ball. It's not like he's 24 years old. He did it at Temple. He did it at Baylor. He's just going to be somewhere with, I'd say, a little bit better resource. And at Nebraska, look, if they're going to spend like that to get him, they're certainly going to spend everything they need to spend in terms of the orbiting, not the orbit, what in the world does that even mean? The supporting infrastructure. I asked him about that also. So all that's in the interview. But I don't do hot takes on this show, ever. But I got one for you. But I firmly believe this. I think Matt Rhule is our next Brian Kelly. I think Matt Rhule is the next guy that starts having consistent winning seasons at a program not in the South. I think his skill set transcends any region of this country. I think that it could be that we're about to see him string together some really good years, really productive years at Nebraska. I think he's going to get a real taste for recruiting via NIL and the portal. That seems kind of like what Brian Kelly's doing right now. I think he's got the right attitude to thrive in college football, and that's the kind of attitude that is a total type A alpha that everyone gravitates towards and everyone views as a leader. But also, if you couldn't tell in that clip we just played, he's also the kind of guy he's really good in front of people. He's really good at dealing with people, and I don't mean coaches and players. I mean everything from parents to boosters to Board of Regents members to donors. He's really good at that. Now, here's the multi-million-dollar question. If I'm right about that, that's part one. Part two is, does he do that at Nebraska, or does he springboard from Nebraska somewhere else? That remains to be seen. First part's got to pan out. But the stock could explode this year. Look at their schedule. What if they have 8 wins this year? You know, in other words, what if they do what Nebraska was expected to do the last several years? Just win the close games, you know? He's got a 47-43 record at Temple and Baylor. Temple and Baylor. I have to stress that again to you. Where does he see himself? Is the question I keep coming back to with Matt Rhule. He's got to get it done first. We understand that. I don't need anyone coming in the comment section saying, let's let the guy coach a game first. Okay. Feel free. On this show, sometimes we talk about the future. Sue us. Well, the company. And don't sue the company either. I'm sorry, Jared. Matt Rhule is one of the most interesting coaches right now in our sport because of where he is at the time he's there and how good pretty much everyone thinks he is. I am, like some of you guys, a little surprised at his offensive coordinator hire. I'll leave it at that because he understands a whole lot more about that than I do. But Marcus Satterfield, I mean, look, hey, if Marcus Satterfield is a chip on the shoulder kind of guy, it's going to be a good year for him. He will have endless source of motivation because they were kind of, not so low-key happy to see him leave town at South Carolina. Everyone kind of scratched their head when he was hired at Nebraska. We'll see. We will see.